Welcome to Scenario, the deep dive podcast for insights and reviews.
Great to be here.
Today, we're getting into something pretty relatable, I think. Overcoming the fear of love.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Our main source for this is a really compelling TEDx talk. It's called Overcoming the Fear of Love by Trillian Small. You can find it on the TEDx Talks YouTube channel.
It's definitely worth a watch. Very powerful.
Absolutely. And, our goal here, as always, is to take a rich source like this one and really pull out the core insights for you.
Kind of distill it down so you get the good stuff efficiently.
Exactly. Get you well informed, maybe spark some aha moments along the way without it feeling, overwhelming. This is really for you if you like to understand things deeply but quickly.
And Trillian Small kicks things off with a really vivid image, doesn't she?
She does. That movie scene.
Yeah, the single mom pushing away a genuinely good guy. Someone who treats her and her kids well.
Right. And it's not because she doesn't like him.
Yeah.
It's fear.
Exactly. Fear based on bad stuff that happened in the past. Like an automatic defense.
Which leads straight to that core question, really. Why do we sometimes push away the very things that could be good for us?
Such a fundamental question.
Okay, so let's try and unpack that. The speaker, Trillian, she actually shares her own journey going to therapy, even though she's a counselor herself.
Which takes courage, admitting you need help even when you are the helper.
She realized her relationships kept hitting a wall, basically, failing. And she decided, honestly, to look inward.
And that's when her therapist drops this observation after hearing about all these wrong partners.
What was the insight there?
Well, the therapist suggested, gently I imagine, that maybe Trillian was subconsciously drawn to dismissive people, emotionally unavailable men.
Oof. How did she take that?
Well, initially. She mentions feeling disbelief, almost resentment. Like, how could I possibly want someone who ignores me?
Yeah, I can see that reaction.
But then, looking back, really analyzing who she dated, she realized the therapist was onto something.
Wow. So that realization must have been a turning point.
Definitely. It highlights how we can get stuck in these familiar relational dynamics. Even if they're not healthy for us at all, they just feel known.
Right. Familiar, even if it's familiar pain. And that pushed her to ask, okay, what is driving this? Why reject the good and accept or even chase the bad?
She gives that stark contrast example, doesn't she? The two guys.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So one guy is genuinely interested, asks her questions, wants to see her, seems caring.
Okay, sounds good so far.
But her internal reaction, it's almost like an alarm bell. Suspicion, like this feels fake, it's too good to be true.
Interesting. So the positive signals trigger a negative response.
Exactly. And then there's the other guy, distracted, disappears for weeks, then sends some superficial text.
And her reaction to that?
Excitement, almost euphoria. It's this complete paradox, isn't it? The caring guy feels suspicious, the neglectful one feels thrilling somehow.
It really shows how much our unconscious patterns can run the show, completely outside of rational logic.
Totally. And this is where she introduces that crucial concept. We are basically wired for survival. Self-protection is built in.
Okay, the biological basis.
Right. And this whole protection system runs on two main things. Our experiences and the associations we form between those experiences and emotions, good or bad.
So how do those associations then play out in, our love lives?
Well, she uses some great examples to make it clear. Think about Paris.
Okay, Paris.
A romantic proposal there. Paris gets linked with love, right? Happy feelings.
Makes sense.
But a bombing in Paris, suddenly the same place gets linked with grief, with fear.
Same place, totally different emotional tag.
Exactly. Or a police officer, depending on your personal experience. That interaction could be linked to feeling hate or maybe deep gratitude.
So experiences create these strong emotional links in our memory.
Precisely. And then she shares that really personal story, the one about canoeing.
Ah, yes, the snake incident.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a relaxing day out, right?
Yeah.
On the water.
But it turns into terror. Because of a snake, or what she thought was a snake initially.
Well, it started as just seeing a colorful stick in the water, looked harmless,
Okay.
but then she realizes, wait, that's not a stick, it's a snake. And immediate panic sets in.
Understandable.
Her brother acts fast, gets rid of the actual snake, the immediate danger is gone.
Phew.
But the fear, that sticks around, big time. So much so that for years, she absolutely refused to get back in a canoe.
Wow. Even though the threat was long gone.
Right. The brain made this super strong connection. Canoe equals danger, even when it wasn't true anymore. It just shows how fast and deep these emotional associations can form.
And that leads us right into the brain science bit, the system that handles all this fear stuff. The limbic system.
Yeah, she breaks it down in a really accessible way, using these nicknames for the parts, makes it easier to grasp.
So walk us through that. How does this fear circuit work?
Okay, so first you've got the thalamus. Think of it as the brain's receiving dock for sensory info. It comes in through there.
Got it. The inbox.
Then there's the amygdala, she calls it Amy. Amy's the emotional reactor. Its job is basically to ask, threat or no threat, quick assessment.
Okay, Amy sounds important. And maybe a little jumpy.
Can be. And Amy often checks in with her assistant, Miss Hippo. That's the hippocampus.
Ms. Hippo, the memory keeper.
Exactly. Miss Hippo dives into the archives, searching for any past experience that seems similar to the current situation.
Even vaguely similar.
Yeah, even a remote resemblance can be enough. If Miss Hippo finds something that flagged as dangerous before, she tells Amy, hey, watch out.
Alarm bells start ringing.
Pretty much. Amy gets that signal and sounds the alarm, which then activates DJ Hype.
EJ Hype, who's that?
The hypothalamus. DJ Hype gets the party started, the stress party. Releases adrenaline, cortisol.
The whole fight or flight cocktail.
Yeah.
Gets the body ready to react.
Right. But thankfully, there's another player, the prefrontal cortex.
The rational brain.
Yeah.
The CEO.
You got it. The executive function part. Its job is to look at the situation more carefully, more logically. It can analyze the info and say, hold on, Amy, calm down.
Like the example she gives of seeing a bear in a room.
Exactly. The limbic system freaks out bear danger.
But the prefrontal cortex steps in.
Right. It assesses and says, wait a sec, it's big, it's furry, but it's wearing a jersey. It's just a mascot. No actual threat here. It can override that initial panic response.
Okay, so a properly functioning system lets reason prevail when there's no real danger.
Correct. But what happens when this system misfires, specifically around relationships and love?
Yeah, how does this connect back to fearing love?
Well, Trillian explains it as essentially a memory filing error, a misfiled memory.
Meaning?
If you've had really negative experiences in past relationships, maybe betrayal, neglect, abuse, your brain might mistakenly link the feeling of connection, intimacy, even love itself with danger and pain.
So closeness starts to feel threatening, even if the new person is actually safe.
Precisely. The hippocampus flags it based on old data, Amy freaks out, and that protective mechanism kicks in.
Making you push away potentially good relationships. It sees love itself as the threat based on those old, distorted files.
Yeah. It's trying to protect you, but it's working off faulty intelligence, basically.
That makes so much sense. It's not logical, but you can see the mechanism.
And she makes this really important point. She calls it a memory recall issue. It's about how we access and interpret those past hurts.
And she contrasts that shallow, buttery butterfly feeling with something deeper.
Right. She says, love truly is knowledge and intelligence. It's not just a fleeting emotion. It's understanding. It's truth.
She uses that example of her friend, right? The one who swore off relationships.
Yeah, the friend who said, nope, never again, because her last relationship ended badly.
So the memory of that past pain is actively blocking her from even considering a potentially different positive future experience.
Exactly. It's the recall of that old hurt creating an irrational fear of something that hasn't even happened yet.
It shows how easily we can generalize, doesn't it? One bad experience poisons the whole well.
Totally. And Trillian really nails this when she says, and this is crucial, love didn't hurt. It was the person that you love that did those things to you.
That distinction is so important. Don't blame love for what a person did.
If you generalize the bad experience to the concept of love itself, you basically shut yourself off. You can't be a loving being, as she puts it, and you can't receive love either.
Okay, so if these fear responses are learned associations, can they be unlearned?
Yes. And this is where she brings in the idea of extinction from operant conditioning.
Like the rat experiment.
Exactly. Pair a sound with a shock enough times, the rat learns to fear the sound. Sound equals pain.
Standard conditioning.
But if you then play the sound repeatedly without the shock, eventually that fear response starts to fade. It gets extinguished because the association is broken.
So the brain learns, okay, that sound doesn't predict pain anymore.
Right. New learning overrides the old fear association.
How does that apply to something complex like the fear of love, though? It's not just a sound and a shock.
True. But the principle is similar. We need new experiences, new knowledge that directly contradict the old fear-based beliefs. And she shares an incredibly powerful personal example of this.
Her reconnecting with her father.
Yes. After 26 years of silence, imagine the stories she must have told herself in that time about why he wasn't there, about not being wanted.
Decades of potential negative self-belief building up.
And then they reconnect, and he says these incredibly powerful things to her. I have been looking for you, and I never stopped loving you.
Wow, just direct contradictions to everything she might have feared or believed.
Exactly. Those words, that encounter, provided new knowledge, a new truth that directly counteracted the old lies she'd internalized about her worthiness of love.
It's like that new positive experience started the extinction process for that deep-seated fear of abandonment or unworthiness.
Precisely. It was a corrective emotional experience. His unconditional love, stated clearly, acted like the no shock in the rat experiment. It weakened the old fear association.
It really drives home that point again. Love didn't hurt you, the person did. We have to separate the two.
If we don't, we stay stuck. We can't move forward.
And this connects to broader psychological ideas too, right? Like Maslow's hierarchy.
Absolutely. Love and belonging are fundamental human needs. They're right there in the middle of the pyramid. You can't really reach your full potential self-actualization without feeling loved and connected.
So this fear literally blocks us from meeting a basic human need.
It really does. Which leads to her asking that profound question.
What would life be like if we fully surrendered to love?
Yeah. It taps into that deep desire we all have for connection, for intimacy, to be truly known.
But there's the flip side. Being truly known means being vulnerable.
And vulnerability opens up the possibility of rejection, of getting hurt again, which triggers all those old fears based on past experiences. It's a real catch-22.
So what's the way out? What's the antidote to this fear?
According to Trillian, it comes back to knowledge. The fear of love is fundamentally an issue of distorted knowledge, of misfiled information.
And the solution?
Is knowledge rooted in truth, replacing the old fear-based narratives with factual, corrective experiences and understanding.
Like her going back to the canoe.
Exactly. That final story, she didn't just understand the fear intellectually, she actively challenged it. She got back in the canoe.
And she actually enjoyed it this time.
She refused to let that old trauma dictate her present and future. She intentionally created a new positive association. That's active extinction work right there.
It's a powerful image of taking back control from fear.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the main takeaways here. Our brains have these protective mechanisms, which is good.
But sometimes, based on past hurts, they create these misfiled memories about relationships and love, making us see connection itself as a threat.
Right, we end up pushing away the good stuff because of these old, faulty associations.
But the hopeful part is, we can change this. We can create new counteracting memories.
Through gaining better knowledge, understanding what really happened versus the stories we tell ourselves, and through having new intentional experiences that contradict the old fears.
Like getting back in the canoe, or like the speaker hearing her father's loving words.
Yeah. We hope this deep dive has given you some of those aha moments, that clear but thorough understanding you look for.
Connecting the dots between past experiences, brain function, and present-day relationship patterns.
And maybe, just as a final thought to leave you with, take a moment to reflect. Are there any areas in your life where maybe a past experience is creating a fear of something potentially good?
Could be relationships, career opportunities, anything really. Where might an old fear be holding you back?
And if you identify something, how could you start, maybe just in a small way, to create a counteracting memory? A new experience, new knowledge rooted in truth, to challenge that old fear.
It's a powerful question to sit with, worth exploring.
Keep exploring, keep questioning those fears. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into the sources.
Yeah, until the next dive.
Welcome to Scenario, the deep dive podcast for insights and reviews.